Doing in your classes thus far? Boy, that looks horrible. The little waves moving up and down. But that's the best they got going right now. Oh, I'm disconnecting the speakers. This thing. Recognize that there's another camera too. Nope. Whatever. All right, who just came in? Did anyone else besides you? No. Okay, so we're still low. He's talking stuff. Today's question you're thinking about. Constitution. And question. Yes, we have no's. There is no in between. You will have to pick a side. So pick the side you think is best. Have a reason why. Cool. 4 minutes. What's going on with it?
You talked about the fires yesterday. There's about $3,000 that got lost, separated from them.
Yeah, big numbers are probably gone. Well, this is 106. Is that the number currently for death count? Yeah. Last time I saw it yesterday was at 9,900 in my intro class. A little earlier, it's like, yeah, it's gone over 100 now. That's heartbreaking. Of course, we did talk a little about conspiracy theories. My favorite conspiracy theory related to that is it was started by Chinese lasers. Well, there's actually a reason behind it. Edwards. Shortly after it started, the Chinese government published some information about how they have satellite technology that can shoot lasers and such. It's like that's just a reflection of how poor international relations are right now. They are not good. course. Not giving me a chance to spotlight myself. Yeah, I guess I have to wait till the third person. I'll be a star. Yeah, so that stuff's, it's crazy, but I, yes. I'm naturally starting fire any number of ways, lightning strikes, some can't fire it from a cigarette out, any number of things. Probably the big one you guys should be watching is, where is it? I think sometime the next couple of days they're supposed to be charging former President Trump with additional charges. I think that's one is in Georgia. And so you should be watching that because that's the first time we've had a president who's faced any type of charges. And our history of presidents is not good in terms of people who've done massively bad things. I mean, it's not good. So. Yeah, I mean, if I said, terrorism sections, I don't want to talk about that too much. I guess I could, but terrorism stuff is horrible. If you ever had me in terrorism, one of the things I always bring up, and I'll bring it up when we get into it again, but I won't spend too much on it. I'm going to talk a little bit about it right this moment. Is the fact that how many U.S. citizens have been killed overseas in drone strikes? There's a number of them. How many of them were juveniles? It's like, yeah, some of them are. And if you track it, if you look at it, probably my favorite family to look at is Al-Awlaki. It's Al-Awlaki, A-L-A-W-A-L-A-I, I think. And basically what it is the leader of the family was a father figure, older, killed in a drone strike or what, but you killed by us. He's actually terrorist. So it's like, yeah, I get that. U.S. citizen though, but he was overseas. Drone strike, he's gone. In a separate drone strike, they killed his 16-year-old son. And then and that was under Obama, both of those. And then a third, this one wasn't a drone strike, it was SWAT. What group was it? I forget, military. Raid on another terrorist, same terrorist cell, but just different location, different time. They killed his 8-year-old daughter, I want to say 8. And what you have there is you have one person, president, authorizing action that is directly causing death of American citizens, some of whom are underage. And that's across red and blue. And go back farther, it's going to go back to red. And go back before that, it might not be under the name terrorism, but it'll be blue again. And so it's all sides. Yeah, you just got away with killing somebody. And it's like, and we do nothing. No, we don't do anything. Why? Those are citizens like you or I. Is it just the fact that they were outside the borders of our country? It's okay to kill them. I don't think so. That's just one way that things have gone awry. That's not anywhere near like going through this presidency. Look at this. It's just nasty. But we will talk a little bit about politics because it has a very big bearing on this class. Okay, let's see those top things. It's fun. All right. So the first question of the day, you guys, for some reason on this computer, it's no longer recognizing the camera in the back of the room. So it's either this one or that one. And this one, you can actually see the board a little bit, unless you want to see the back of the board. We could do that too, but I don't think you guys like that as much. Question of the day is the Constitution outdated? So yes, no, I will ask for a show of hands. Name. Bo. I will work on getting everybody. It helps to have ID pictures in here, which you guys probably hate the fact that I have that, but
Yeah.
yeah. Whenever I first started my master's, the picture I had was whenever I first went to the university and was like a sophomore, freshman, somewhere in that range. And so a few years have passed, but substantial change in looks, weight, that kind of thing. Yeah, who's this guy? Oh, this is you. But it's good. It's good. It's gonna have a little bit of a somewhat of an image of what you guys look like. But is the Constitution outdated? How many of you say yes?
Yes.
You gotta pick one, so I got at least one online. We got one online, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so that's 11. Online, we got 3 so far that say no. How many of you say no? 1, 2, 2. So we got 5. The intro was much more balanced. I think it was a smaller class though. I think it's like 4 and 5 or something like that. Okay. Why? I'm looking at you now.
No, I do have a.
Oh, you do have a
But I said no, but for a very specific reason.
Hmm.
But I feel like I can't get some honesty. It was wrong.
Okay, so you're over here on no?
I don't know. Why?
In this, no, I don't want to know why. I want to know
No, which one?
decision. I want to know decision. I need to change my numbers.
No,
Okay,
for now.
okay, so we got,
I didn't raise my hand for yes. I don't think you
Oh.
counted me. I think you're good.
now you're just playing. Like +1 question mark.
Maybe.
I don't know. Take too much time. All right. You said you had a specific reason for no. What is it?
The Constitution is made to be updated. So it shouldn't be outdated. It's the way that it was formed was to evolve. But there may be things in the Constitution that are outdated themselves, but the way that we made it to be updated is.
It is a beautiful system. I don't see how document can vote to amend what we did. That's a good
That's-
point.
yes.
Mhm. Yeah, there are amendments. We'll get to that. Okay, we'll go back over to those who said it is outdated. Reasons why. Go.
Well, now I'm gonna change my answer.
No. Guys, now we're.
Can I give you my older reason then?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like purely because of the taxes. Because like back then,
You can
well,
survive.
it's still, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's still like the riches back then were taxed a lot more than like the rich people are now.
Yeah, there's just much more balance. Now what we have is I know they get you on both ends. Take it out of your income, they take it when you spend it. You probably make about 40% of what you actually do. You know, that's the thing, it's killer. It's just gone right away. You look at the brackets and all that, and the exceptions and the loopholes, those have a lot of money. You can find those very, very quickly. Go back to the political side of things. It's they're having the thing with the tax forms, and I know probably I think there are other people they're asking for in some cases. It's like so and so paid less than I did. Yeah, that's the general point, is to try to keep that money yourself, but still, if everybody does it and does it effectively, then the system doesn't work at all. It's like who usually ends up getting the brunt of it? Usually it's the low and middle classes. The upper classes will pay much more. I think they pay, you start looking at like the top 30%, just ballpark figure. They pay something like 90% of the taxes in this country, but at the same time, they're taking it from everybody. Even people who don't work for anything and get ballpark, it's like they still pay. It's just not with money, not what you think. Maybe just the way you think. They pay for the quality of life and that kind of stuff. Okay, so taxes. You don't like it. Okay, what else? Yes.
I think it is outdated for some reason as to what she said. I think it should be outdated, that it might be concurrent for a day. But eventually, as people get older and people die off, it should be eligible to be amended. It should be outdated, it's my argument. Because it should be able to change.
Yeah. Okay. Which to some degree is true. It is a reactive system. It does take time for it to adjust to things that are there. New things that arise. We'll get to that in a second. Other reasons. You guys are all quiet now. Just staring at me. Yes.
I think just like the systems it lays out, like the checks and balances. Well, I mean, it definitely was good and it got us to this point.
Mhm.
I think just as like modern society, how things have changed, it's starting to show cracks and stuff in certain things or imbalances. And there's just not good systems in place to
Mhm.
really like fix that. Because we interpret the wording is absolute, like the Supreme Court, they decide how it's read.
Mhm.
So it just creates kind of sometimes problems and
Oh, definitely. Oh,
so
definitely.
it's just,
Definitely.
there's definitely room for improvement there. It's just,
Quick question. Checks and balances. They spell checks funny or was it spelled like normal? I can't remember. Sometimes they spell it with Q in certain places. I don't remember. I have no idea. I just popped my head as a right. Sometimes there's a Q here. I don't know. This is very, very true. I said, take the area you live in and you will pick the problems that you face. They'll deal directly with this. For example, I'm gonna have a prosecutor who's gonna make a decision whether or not to charge someone for a crime. Well, depending on their political aspirations in the area that they live in, that can massively affect their decision. Probably the clearest instance of that was back, I think it was George Floyd. I think it was one before that. I can't remember. There's been so many of those in the last few years, riots, violence, and that kind of stuff. But there was a couple of lawyers in, is it Missouri? Out on their yard, you have a group of people who are coming through the area. It's a private area. And one was brandishing a rifle, the other one's brandishing a pistol. Well within, not right, but well within the legality of the state, the stand your ground. They're in their own yard. Yeah, they can stand their ground there. They can be armed. They were charged, actually pled guilty to stuff. Minor stuff, but it was just to say that that could get done with very ties to the criminal justice system, but they hadn't done anything wrong. The only reason they were charged, politics. And balances between that have gone right. Okay, other reasons. Nothing? Yes.
I think the Supreme Court's existence or need for Supreme Court kind of indicates to the fact it's outdated, that we need a body that interprets laws because they're so behind the times.
Yeah.
If they were updated to a point that we all knew what they're, meant and what they were supposed to be, we wouldn't need Supreme Court. Really to that point we have them.
That's true. That's true. Okay. On to the other side. So it's made to be updated. What are the reasons why you say it's not outdated? Okay. Do you hit on this? Hit on this. The other things that are very relevant, but a little bit outside what we'll be talking about today. Maybe we'll get into maybe. So yes, we have this whole process to update it. Is it used frequently? No. Is it easy? No. Okay.
In theory, the Constitution is not outdated, but in practice,
Yeah, it is something that will always catch up. But the big thing to keep in mind is on this one. That it is their job to interpret. There is some problems with the fact that everything has to be interpreted. Like while we're in here, we'll deal with terms and things. I can give you definitions for them. Well, the clearest one was, I know you had, that was procedures, and I think a couple others did too. I said cartilage. It's like, I can tell you how to define cartilage. I can't tell you whether something specifically is. Like, here are the things that you weigh to make this decision. How close is it to the house? Cartilage is the area that's protected. Right? How close is it to your house? Is it enclosed? What kind of uses it have? Is it you try to obscure it from the public view? It's like, you know, I can give you those factors. I can't tell you, it's like, where exactly does this cartilage end? Is it 5 feet down? Is it 6 feet out? Is it 20 feet out? I can't do that. And it's like that for a lot of things. So interpretation is always going to be part of it. And yeah, it's hard to get away from that. It really is. It'd be nicer if there were a better way to have an objective standard for all of these things, but when you start getting into it, it gets really complicated, really, really fast. This has a process. What is that process to get there?
Just do the courts, like,
Okay. Start out, you go to court. What then?
then state, and then federal courts.
Say state. Then we'll say. SCOTUS. No, actually, we don't have book in this class. We'll also say. Appeals, right? Get charged with something or you're in court for whatever reason. Appeals. You go to appellate court after that, right? For whatever reasons, whether it's, you know, there's something wrong with the verdict or whether it's, you know, usually it's technicalities, that kind of stuff. After that, if you are still in the process of appeals, if it's not been resolved here, you move up to the state Supreme Court. Doesn't get appealed or doesn't get resolved there. SCOTUS, right? And even here, you can petition SCOTUS to take your case based on whatever the case is. I can't think factors involving that specific case. You guys remember your levels of criminal justice system? Everyone's quiet. That worries me. Okay. We'll do that real quick then. If you guys see anything pop up there, I don't notice it, just be like, hey, you know, I can't. Because it'll be more likely to catch your eye than not because of the angle. Okay. Levels. Okay. We'll go with criminal justice in general, not courts specifically, because courts have a little bit, they don't start as close to home as like policing or, yeah, we'll just start with policing. That'll be the first step that you learn in the intro, right? Policing, what are those levels? This is intro. You guys had intro, you had to have it, right? No, you didn't have intro? That surprises me.
I took it in high school.
Took it in high school. Okay, I'll give you some help then. We'll start. Local, we're usually talking about city, right? Municipalities. How long does your grass have to be? That's here, that kind of thing, right? After that, you move out to counties. Yes, excellent. County. Keep going. State. State. And then federal. Excellent. All right. Ideally, here you are. You're individuals, right? You're in a place, that place has laws. It's also within a place that has laws, within a place that has laws, within a place that has laws. That kind of thing. The bulk of this class will be here, a little bit here, but probably more folks in this. We won't get into ordinances or anything like that. You'll find a lot of county, just not related to court stuff. Court, go to court. When you go to court, who goes to court? In criminal cases, it's who? Yeah, prosecutor represents who?
The state.
The state. So it's you versus an entire state. Right? Or whomever you're defending, whoever's on trial. One person, right? Versus state. So here's you, the individual. You'll be taken to this location. Right. Those have different jurisdictions, depending on what system you're talking about. There's heavy overlap. I don't think I ask any specific questions, but I won't get into specific numbers, but just general flow through. Right? Your appeals, circuit courts tend to have a larger jurisdiction, so they'll cover many areas where there's many courts. One area where there's many courts, larger area. State Supreme Court covers the entire state, of course, that makes sense. By the time you get to the federal system, you're talking about districts and get the other term. I should remember it off the top of my head, but I don't. Same kind of thing though. You'll have a courts of general jurisdiction, appellate courts, and then the last one is this one, right? When you start out as an individual. Wherever your case is decided determines just how far of a reach it has, right? They'll try to align any case that you have, the decisions that are made. They'll try to align with previous cases, for the term precedent, case law, right? Not as easy to navigate as statutes, but that's what we're talking about here. Through that, your individual case makes a change at whatever level it needs to, right? It's both a bottom up and a top down system, right? You get it again on both ends. There you go. So you as an individual are bound here, you go through the system where we got decisions made, it binds to everyone else. It's the same way for like all these systems connect, criminal justice, you're talking about policing, courts, corrections, all of them connect, right? You'll have lawsuits about policing, you'll have lawsuits about corrections, you'll have, criminal cases that'll affect both, so there's as many different interactions that can take place. They do, right? And it functions. Every day there are court cases decided. Yeah, only a few times a year do this group meet, revise, well, I shouldn't say revise, but update the entire thing. But they do. That being said, is it out of date? Give a strong argument because that's going to take time, right? How long does it take for, well, an arrest can be pretty quick, but then those can take months too. But we'll say from the point of arrest to the point that you're actually sitting in court and facing charges can be a good kind of period of time. Magistrate. Yes, so magistrates, they're like limited judges. Their purview is much more limited. They have a lot of the same privileges, but not fully. Typically, we'll find magistrates is usually in decisions that relate to warrant applications. Much so you don't necessarily cases in the instances that I'm familiar with, but I don't know as much about magistrates. I do know that they're used for commonly establishing probable cause for warrants. That's a different class. But I do like what you're saying, you're in the right area. All right, so whether you place yourself at the bottom or the top, kind of cyclical, I guess you could say. Hard thing to really outline. Okay. I think I'll do this one and then I'll jump back into amendments. Something you want to do. Yes, we will do something here in a minute. All right, so governmental structure. What kind of governmental structure do we have? Okay, democracy. What other types are there? Or public, Republic. What else?
Communist and like socialism.
Yeah, I mean, you could say, you know, a country's governmental structure is more capitalistic in nature, more socialistic in nature, more communist in nature. I have a hard time, like, there are very specific, you know, this is what socialism and communism is. It's like, I don't look at it that way. I tend to look at it more of like I should say continuum. More like, okay, over here is crony capitalism. Over here is pure communism. And guess what? When you're on both ends of these things, like basically the same thing. I mean, when you really get into it, okay, it's like crony capitalism. Money's gonna go to people because of who they know, right? Okay, so what you end up with is a few people who are in charge of major organizations or companies or whatever, taking all the money, right? Small group of people with all the power, all the influence. You know, over communism, what do you have? A small group of people who are supposed to distribute the goods for all the people. So you end up with the same damn thing. And if you look at it, you will see the same thing, same behaviors. It's just, you know, whatever we label it, it's bad people, bad situations. Death usually follows. I mean, a lot of dual sovereignty. Yeah, we can talk a little bit about this. So these two systems are separate, the state and the federal system. The only exception to that is SCOTUS. Two separate systems. Dual sovereignty means that you can be charged in either system. We have a constitutional amendment about the privilege against double jeopardy. Do we really have it? No, not at all. I mean, well, you follow it through. Let's say you go to court. What was your verdict? What are your possible verdicts? Yeah, or
Nullification.
well, nullification is still innocent. Yeah, there might be a law against it, but I really, you know, I find it completely acceptable. Yeah, you can do that. Likewise, you can convict somebody, like the jury hate them, if that happens. So I talked about that, I think, last time. Mistrial. Hung jury. So depending on the place that you're in, what that looks like. Most places for criminal charges, you're talking about unanimous decision across the board. Some states allow for a non-unanimous decision, right? But largely you're talking about unanimous decision. It's not unanimous, or they don't get enough votes one way or the other. Hung jury, mistrial, right? There is no conclusion. Guess what you do?
Go again.
Again, right? And we go right back. Right? Appeals, sometimes they have a resolution, sometimes they say, go back. And here, right? It's gonna remand this back to the lower courts to make a decision after getting this advice. It's common to be caught up in this cycle for years. That's, oh, yeah, at least in the sense you can charge by. Yes, that's what I'm getting to. Yes, so this is a very, very, very long process. If you do something that's criminalized in both the state and federal levels, they're two independent systems. You're not getting charged twice, even though it's the same act. It's two different charges, right? I think a good example. Let's say I kidnap you, take you hostage, and I travel to Texas. I'm on my way to Mexico. I'm running away. That's what people to sell. I'm gonna make enough money. I'll be able to live at least for a little while, right? So I'm on my way to Mexico. Get caught in Texas. Well, where can I be charged? I'm charged on Texas, the federal system, and that's before you can get to the civil side where you can still file monetary damages for any harms. So it's really 3 times you can charge for something. So there you go. Be argued that what jurisdiction is going to take those charges. It's going to be here or there. Here it starts here. So 2 separate systems. Some, but very little overlap. Governmental structure, we were talking about communism, socialism, capitalism. Yeah, you can classify those things. If we're talking about our country in terms of that, you'd probably say capitalist, but we do have very heavy socialist elements. If you talk about welfare, for example, it's like that's a socialist system. Is it necessary? Some argue yes, some argue no. I'm probably somewhere along the middle. It's like, it'd be great if we could get rid of the fraud, then it'd probably work like it's supposed to, but that's a different argument. We get to us ourselves. Democracy gets thrown around a lot. Republic is what we are. Some will qualify and say democratic republic or constitutional republic. Out of those is fine. Really, you know, the difference between those is so small that it matters, but not to a large degree. We have some democratic processes, but we're represented is what it is. And to understand that system, boy, you have to stop and think about what we're trying to do. And probably the biggest thing is to think about it in terms of majority versus minority. I'm not talking like demographics. I'm saying, I agree with this idea. I disagree with this idea. And so what you want to do is you want to have a system that can meet the needs of both of those. So how do you do it? You have to try to figure out some type of balance, which is why you have systems like, well, one, you have a number of different jurisdictions. So the closer you get to home, the more influence you have. But at the same time, you have, what I want to tell you about this. The thresholds that they put for certain things, like if you're going to get an amendment, you need to have a really, really high number of Congress people on that side of that argument. Why? We need to meet the needs of the majority, but we also need to have a consensus between the majority and the minority enough to be able to push that over, which is why that kind of stuff doesn't really happen. You'll see more on the case law side of things if things get up. But you know, I was in here earlier, so let's talk about voting. Yes, it's a constant balance in terms of majority versus minority and keeping the system to where everyone's as happy as they can be, and it never works out 100% in anybody's favor. It is an interesting system. Try to balance those things. So far, that's about the best that we've been able to come up with this as an organism, as a people. That's probably the best way to do it. What I want to tell you beyond that, amendments. There's two things that we need to discuss about those. The first one, back to skills assessment. Everybody break out a piece of paper and a pencil. If you're on a computer and don't have one, well, you have a pencil. You write with it, right on. Okay, excellent. Are you ready? No. I even hinted at it heavily.
Yeah, I know. I thought about it and I was like, I'm gonna look it up, make sure I'm on my game, and then I didn't.
Oh, your head was at least in the right place.
Yeah, I knew what I should have been doing and I didn't.
That's a good start. Okay. So for this, put your name on it. And then what you want to do is you'll want to go have lines for 1 through 10, and then write down your Bill of Rights. What are the rights that are enumerated in the Bill of Rights? Remember. Any assignment telling you to read it before. Step 1. I just give you a lot of grief last class.
Can we cheat? Because one of my teachers gave me the Constitution.
No, I have some too. I'm not giving any out though, because I figured this is a 3,000 level course. You guys have been adults for at least a couple of years. You should know what your rights are because you had to operate out in society. I don't care about order. Just do what you can. Order does not matter. Do what you can. And then I'll give you a few minutes to do that when everybody's looking at me like they don't write, can't write email. Pissed off, I'm asking for doing that. Fine. Then we'll start talking.
I haven't taken any free class since high school.
That's okay, that's okay. For those of you who are online, what you should do is similar type of thing. You just open up an email. And what you should do is number 1 through 10, do the best you can. I'm getting the view here. Do the best you can, and when you get to the end, hold on to it. Don't send it to me yet, because I'm gonna ask for a little bit more. And then we'll talk. And I'm just gonna assume no one online is cheating. Really, it wouldn't matter if you cheated anyway, because the point of this is not the words on paper. Is my sound coming through? Okay, I just realized I'm kind of talking quiet. I realize that's because I'm tired. I'll speak up a little bit more. See a few eyes, which is good. Now the ones who are still writing it leaves me to wonder, are they just making stuff up? Maybe. Maybe. Give me a couple minutes. Some will be. It's when you start getting about the middle. I mean, the first about 4 are pretty straightforward, and then you get the fifth, and from there it's like there are multiple things for each one. But best fan of more than 10, I'll be like, what's going on here? Not like I said, what's on the paper doesn't really matter. It's just a general assessment of what you're carrying. I guess for instance, I'll tell you the story. So I was up on our floor, we're up on the floor. They started putting up cork boards and videos for publication and stuff on that for all that. And I realized, one, I'm woefully behind, but it's awesome. Kind of rough years. What was really cool is someone put up a what was a quote up on it from you guys' name. But it went something to the effect of, it was written in ancient Greece and said, this new invention you have, writing, has, paraphrased, one detrimental effect. It will affect the minds of the people who use it. They will not remember things that they can write down. Right? Weakening the minds and memories of those. Today it's even worse. I mean, look at those things. Like, whenever I signed in, how many times I have to put in my password? Only a couple. How many times I signed into things? Like 6. I remembered it all for me. If you asked me my passwords for stuff, I wouldn't tell you, but would I remember? No. And that's just the stuff. That's minor stuff. That's not big stuff. This. Anybody still writing? Okay, good. Good. That guy's name was Socrates, right? Socrates. It was a Socrates book. I just every time I see his name, I think Bill and Ted. You guys ever seen those movies? It's horrible, horrible film. Because I love this. So, how many of you got everything? How many got about half of it? Okay, that's good. How many of you got less than 30? No, good. That's not bad. The question is, if you don't know them, do you have them? There's any type of action taken against you. Do you know how to use them? If you don't know them, that's kind of a big thing, right? Get to where you know them. You don't need to know all of them. Criminal justice, it'd be good to know. Hey, First Amendment's speech, assembly, press petition. I think I'm forgetting one there. Religion, there you go, religion. Second Amendment's right to bear arms. Also militias. Cross-reference with the first one. Well-regulated militia, yeah, you can form militias, that kind of thing. Third one, no quarters, no courting soldiers, will not be forced to quarter soldiers. That one's kind of funny. I talked with it about my intro class this morning, someone brought it up, like, yeah, that one used to be deemed a relic. Just to hold over from your British occupation, your British colony. So that's what they do. Come to live with you and we're eating your food. You know, like, that's pretty shitty. We don't like that. Came back up again when COVID happened. People who rent apartment buildings, homes, those types of things. Guess what? We're closing all jobs for the next couple weeks. Didn't open them back up for a long time. You can't kick anybody out. You're not getting any payment for your housing. And yeah, you're back to ordering people in your homes again in force. Right? Because you try to remove them, what's gonna happen? Police are gonna get called. Hey, we got this executive order saying you can't do this. You're the one in trouble. My house. I own it. They're destroying it. I don't care. This is what this says. And that's kind of stuff. Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. Fifth one's, let's see, privilege against self-incrimination. Can't remember if double jeopardy's in that one. Some aspects to jury trial in that one, some are in the 7th, some are also in the 8th. You know, so like I said, it does get messy. 6 is generally the right to counsel, but it's also referenced in the 5th. Let's see, 7th, I don't remember. 8th was unreasonable, no. Yeah, cruel and unusual punishment. And bail? Bail on that one too? Okay. 9th and 10th, I also have a hard time keeping them straight. One's about state sovereignty. The other one's about rights not enumerated. It's not specifically mentioned here. It doesn't mean it's not a right. Right? That's basically your first 10. If you don't know them, who's going to inform you of them? Like, no, police will inform you of your Miranda rights. That's 5th and 6th, but that's the only time they really have to tell you anything. So all the rest of them, that's on you. Right? Bigger question is this one right here. Did I talk about population stuff last time? I mentioned in my intro class on Monday, and it was something that came up again. We're talking about this. So maybe I'll talk about that. Everybody knows what a culture is, right? That's what a culture is. The other in higher education. You're technically well cultured just as it is. I mean, just think, a couple generations ago, just being here meant you were cultured. It still does. What exactly is our culture though?
It's like Americans,
Yes.
pretty much everything, a little bit.
Okay. Are we talking about food?
Yeah. I mean, we have burgers and steaks, but we're a melting pot, you know?
Melting. I love that. I referenced that myself this morning. What does that mean?
Everything. It's kind of together. We kind of bastardize a little bit, but we do take from other cultures.
Yeah. You take what works. Yeah. Would be hard to find any place on the planet where someone from there hasn't come here. Right? You go to any country in the world, like you can find someone living here who's originally from there, or at least you can trace their families back, right? Even people who originally were here, it's like they came from elsewhere and to. So it's definitely a lot of different cultures here. There's diversity is a strength. You guys have heard that one, yes? It can also be a weakness. What's the defining thing, whether that's a strength or a weakness?
Teamwork.
Essentially,
Yeah.
yes, unity. You guys watch Game of Thrones whenever it was going on? You too young for that? No? Okay, good. The only reason I bring that up, there's one scene in one of the very early episodes where there's a king who's talking, it's like, which one's greater, the greater force, 5 or 1? 5. I think you got more. It's like 5 or 1. You're together, you're together. You'll be damn near unstoppable. If you're not, you're going in 6 different directions. That's not gonna work. Right? Whether you're in, you go become a lawyer, you go into criminal justice, any criminal justice, any field at all. Like, one of the biggest things they're looking for is your ability to work with other people, because you're gonna have to. Right? What defines our culture? I guess that wasn't rhetorical. What does define our culture? You're looking for any place that would quickly identify the values of a people.
What we
Here.
wear.
Where would you look? I can hear what you said. You said that in last quote. It was you.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
What we wear.
I couldn't hear you.
What we wear.
What you wear. Yes, I can. That's more of, I almost want to say subculture or more individualized. Like I'm thinking more along the lines, if I want to see specific words on what it means to be a member of this country, where would you look?
The practices.
What the practices?
What we teach.
Other amendments and constitution.
Everything that you need to get along this country, rights, the responsibilities, what it means to be in this country and to be a citizen. They're enumerated here, maybe not always clearly, maybe not always directly. For example, if I said, your Bill of Rights, what does it govern? Is it a restriction on the governmental actions, or is it a guarantee to the individual citizens that they have said rights?
A guarantee.
How many of you think guarantee? How many of you think it's just restrictions on government? It's both, but it falls more towards one or the other. And that's actually been significant argument related to constitutional rights. The gun amendments, the Second Amendment's probably the big one that came out in the last couple of years. That was a case called Bruin. What state it came from. But basically they were trying to make that decision. Maybe it's DC versus Heller. That one too. This was probably the big one. I live in DC. They tell me I can't have a gun. I'm an off-duty police officer. I need to keep my gun in my safe. I still have arrest authority. That was what that case was basically about. Like, is it you as an individual that has that right to a firearm, or is it we, the people, as in we have the police, they carry a gun, you don't need it. Right? And guns its own hot topic issue. We won't get heavy into that. Basically what they said is, no, it's your individual right. You as an individual, each of these rights belongs to you. No, it's not just restrictions on governments, because it's that, guess what? You can quickly overshadow any individual characteristic by looking at numbers. That is a very bad way to do things. The only thing that holds our culture together is that we can live with one another, right? How can you live with them? So you read these things, know what your rights are, kind of get the underlying intention of them. They're there for you. That, you know, for example, non-aggression. Right? We have laws against murder. Can I get away with murdering someone? You bet your ass I can. They just got to provoke me first in the right way, to the right degree. That's it. That's it. Not that difficult. Very dangerous, very bad situation to be in. Would not wish it on anybody. Can you do it though and get away with it? In certain circumstances. Right? Knowing that, hey, if you're not aggressive in the situation, you do everything you can to get out of it. Guess what? You'll be just fine. Right? You become aggressive, guess what? You won't be fine. That's where you start getting into, well, you start getting into the elements of a crime, basically. You're the ones who carry this culture, though. How many of these did you name again? These things live on in you. You don't know what they are. you don't remember them, you won't know when they're being violated. They won't exist in the next generation. There's a significant argument saying that because of people's failure to pass that information on, that's why we face so many difficulties we do right now. The reason I asked about the population thing is I heard Texas finally shifted enough to where Hispanics are the majority population in the state. It's like, why would I talk about that? Am I racist? No. It can be a racist conversation. What it is, it's a cultural thing. Are they coming over here with a mind that they're gonna have to abide by the culture that's here, or are they just bringing in their own culture? You can bring in your own culture, like what you were talking about. You bring it in and assimilate it. You take the parts that work the best, and guess what? Life is all the better. You don't. Things can fall apart. Know these. Be familiar with this. You should know your level pretty easily. So we'll go into more for the court stuff, so we can, I think I've got some slides outlined specific, well, generally, but more specific to the courts. Know what your governmental structure is. Know that you need to know this stuff, whether you go into these fields or not. The future is literally in your hands. Don't forget that. We'll pick up with a discussion of, let's see what's next. About government structure, a little bit about order. That's the big thing. We'll pick up with this discussion next time. What I want you to do with that piece of paper you have, and the online grab an email at the bottom. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about what you want to do with this degree, whatever degree you're getting. Tell me your major too. Tell me your major first. So if you're not a CJ major, I know that. What you intend to do when you finish your bachelor's. Think of anything else you think might need. Right, so that way I just have that readily available. I think I'll lecture you a little bit last class about know what you're going to do when you walk across the stage. Some of you guys are seniors. Like you need to know when you get to that other side, what's next, because right now you have a goal in mind and it's driving you. Right? The clearer defined that goal is, the better it will drive you. And whenever you finish this goal you have right now, you can keep moving up. If you don't have that goal, you're lost. We'll pick up with that next class. Well, don't know. It's not easy to say. We're done for today. I'll start moving into chapter 1 next class. Remember what chapter? The next one that would be really fun for me to talk about is that might be chapter 2. Chocolates within chapter 1.
What were the questions again?
No. Oh, the questions. Tell me your major. What do you plan to do when you finish your degree? And anything else you think I might need to know. Okay, nothing too difficult. That'll help me, so that way I kind of have a feel for what your intents are when you finish, and if there's any opportunities come up, I can kind of help with them. For example, I have a student who's a master right now, going after a master's right now, trying to get off into a specific field for an internship coming up. She found it. We would kind of help her with that while she's in her. Go through it. And there have been other times people have been able to, hey, I'm looking for a job over here. I know so and so. I think they're looking to get involved. And so those types of things can work out in your favor as well. So the more I know about where you need to go, the better defined your goals are. The easier it is for everyone, the better it is for you. With that, I will bid you all farewell for today, this week. I will see you on Monday. Great. You all have a great day.
Oh, you too. You want us to